Hey, thanks for joining us. This is Tim Gonzo-Gordon.
And I'm Roger Clay.
And this is the Communication Steroids podcast. Appreciate you joining us. It's a weekly edition of us just kind of talking about various things that have to do with public speaking and presenting and that sort of thing. If you haven't been to our website, there's a chance of it because a lot of folks come to this through YouTube. We actually put out sort of a slide version of it, as it will. We'll have to get the video cameras hooked up at some point. We just haven't done that yet because, first of all, this is
we are awfully good-looking guys.
Yeah, this is a dark room we're doing this in, and the one camera I have is not of high enough quality that we could do that. So we're still looking to do that and do some video. We will certainly move into that. But for now, you'll have to just kind of watch the screen if you're on YouTube, or just listen to us if you're downloading us from communicationsteroids.com. And either way, we appreciate that you do it. And I just wanted to mention that, Roger.
Absolutely, we appreciate that you do. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most interesting speeches that you may ever be asked to give. And it's particularly true if you are in some sense the head of an organization, and I don't mean necessarily in business, but any kind of organization, or if you're prominent in any kind of organization, you may be asked to give what's called the after-dinner speech.
It is a unique
It is. It is an absolutely unique speech, one you're not likely to run across in any other venue, or as we like to call it, the ADS. And the idea of an after-dinner speech is it's a formal speech in that you're asked to give it. You're asked well ahead of time to present it. Usually it happens, and exactly as the name implies, after a meal, either a luncheon or a dinner. It's considered a formal affair, a formal speech, but it isn't formal in the sense that you're not imparting any kind of new information. You're not launching a new product. You're not launching a new business system or software or hardware or practice or anything. What an after-dinner speech is, the way that it's been explained to me and the way that I've always understood it, even when I gave them, is that it's an aid to digestion. It's intended to be interesting. It's intended to be perhaps a little humorous. But it's not a formal speech in the sense that it imparts new information or new ideas.
And a typical situation, for instance, would be maybe a company gathering, and there's going to be some spouses there, or maybe some friends and some clients there. It's not a closed thing to exactly the company, or maybe it's a nonprofit organization, a yearly recognition
of volunteers dinner, something like that.
So one of those types of things where it doesn't happen all that much with this organization, but this is the one time, maybe per year, that they get together and they need someone to talk. And it doesn't always have to be the CEO or the boss. It could be one of the middle managers. It could be someone that's a volunteer that they understand as a decent public speaker. But you may be called upon to do this, and if you are, there are certain things that we would like you to be aware of. It is a unique speech.
Yeah, and again, it's just intended to be an aid to digestion. It's that for folks to just kind of relax and listen to something that's relatively entertaining.
So where do you start? You got to get ideas from somewhere. What do you suggest, Roger?
Well, you can get your ideas for the speech from a lot of different sources, and of course, one of the principal ones is life. I mean, what do you know well?
Yeah.
I mean, you know life well. Probably the most award-winning speech I've ever given is of the ADS variety, and it's called Holidays Are for Husbands, and it's about the trials and tribulations that wives go through.
And husbands.
Mostly
wives.
To put together a good Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas season for their families, and how easy it is for the husbands to get through the same 3 months, the same three events, and it was very well received, and I won a whole bunch of awards with it, and it is an ADS speech, and it came directly from my wife, from my life,
your experiences,
my experiences with my wife, who is so good and so funny when she does those things.
And that's the kind of thing that makes them smile. So tell a story. Talk about experiences that you have had. Where else?
Yeah, listen to other people. What's being talked about at the water cooler, for example? As long as it's not, death and destruction in Iraq, what are people talking about around the water cooler? Is it the latest starlet and their trials and tribulations, or what are folks talking about there? So listen to others. Then listen to your heart, and talk about your passions. Although this is intended to be a light kind of a speech, you can still talk about what moves you or what motivates you. Don't make it too controversial, though.
No, you wouldn't want to do that. Not in this situation. You've got people and they're Spouse is sitting there. They've just eaten. You got to picture the situation. Desserts being served maybe, or they're nibbling on their pumpkin pie or whatever the case may be, and you're talking to them. So you can talk about, you don't want to be too controversial. And I think you suggested earlier to me that you could go to clubs, for instance. You can go to nightclubs, comedy clubs,
other
borrow
events.
some ideas, but go to other events.
I call them steal. You call them borrow.
I just think you should borrow. Yeah. You mentioned the library. What would you do at the library?
Sure. Every library that I've ever been to has had this absolutely huge rack of dozens, if not hundreds, of magazines, and you can always pull story ideas just off of magazine covers, and there are even humor magazines that you can grab and peruse and take story ideas out of that. So a library is a great place to go to find information and to find speech ideas, speech topics and ideas. You can also talk about people who've inspired you, a great coach or a great teacher or a great spouse or a great kid.
Yeah, if you've got a story about being on the high school or a little league baseball team or something and how some event changed your life, well, you could build a story around that would be a really inspirational speech.
And then
it really would.
Once you've got your idea, then you can start to craft the speech. And in this sense, it's untraditional. I mean, it has the same traditional three elements: an opening, a body, and a conclusion. And in the opening, you introduce the speech, and in the body, you give the speech, and in the conclusion, you wrap it all up.
Yeah.
But the body is unique because you're not presenting new information. You don't have to go into some kind of point-by-point chronological or informational order. You don't have to make sense. It's just stream of consciousness. Interest.
It's very conversational. You're just going to tell a story. You're just going to talk about it. It's like you're sitting down next to a couple of pals, and you're in a living room, and you got the fire lit, and you got the wine in your hand, you got a cigar. You're just going to talk.
Exactly.
You're going to share a story. That's really what this is. You've had dinner, but you're talking to 100 or 150 or 200 people or whatever the case may be. So should be a relaxing speech. There shouldn't be a lot of rip roaring, passion in it, although you might have an element or two of that in it because of the story.
Right. Well, I wanted to talk about the don'ts because, again, although it's an easy speech from the standpoint of you're not trying to persuade anybody, you're just trying to persuade them to feel good, there are some don'ts. Don't get controversial. This is not the place for it.
No.
Save that for another speech. Don't take extreme positions on the things you never discuss at the dinner table.
This wouldn't be the kind of place where you would take sides in the NRA, for instance.
No, it's not appropriate for this venue. I mean, don't unless you're really good at it. Don't talk about God or politics.
Yeah.
Or unless you know the audience very well.
Unless you have first of all, yes, if you do know the audience and you do know that they generally will receive what you're telling them with a lighthearted tone, and you have a lighthearted way of telling something that may have a controversial element to that.
Right.
But you better be darn sure of yourself.
Be right. This is one of those occasions where you have to be right.
I'll even rephrase that. You better be damn sure of yourself.
Yeah. It's one of those places where you have to be right.
Yeah.
And then finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about the notion of humor. It is intended to be a lighthearted speech. It is intended to be a humorous speech. That isn't to say that it's supposed to be a nightclub act.
Not a comedy presentation. You're not doing a whole bunch of one-liners. No.
I
think the after-dinner speech is a great thing, though. If you get asked to do something like that, you should be very grateful, and you should have a good time with it.
Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's a unique opportunity. So hopefully you'll get asked to do one, and we'll get asked to do one again soon, too. This has been our podcast from Communication Steroids. Go check it out.
I'm Roger Pike.
And I'm Tim Gordon.